We talked about earlier in the week the attempt by Trump's attorneys to push back the classified documents case related trial beyond the 2024 presidential election. Indefinitely postponed, but definitely past the 2024 presidential election, of course, in November of 2024. Now, they cited in this legal filing the belief, at least on the part of their attorneys, that Trump wouldn't, as a defendant, be able to get a fair trial before the presidential election, but I guess he would be able to after it's over, and Walt Nauta as well. And then also they need enough time to prepare defense and stuff like that was said as well. Well, Jack Smith's side has now responded in their own legal filing, and that's what we have to look at here. And it's good. This is being reported on from Mediaite. Just in, Jack Smith's team sledgehammers Trump demand to delay trial in blistering response. And then I'll just read you a quick excerpt here from this legal filing. Of course, the decision maker here is the Trump-appointed judge, Eileen Campbell, unfortunately. The United States files this reply in support of its motion for continuance and proposed revised scheduling order. In the response in opposition to the motion, defendants Trump and Nauta claim unequivocally they cannot receive a fair trial prior to the conclusion of the next presidential election, urge the court to withdraw the current scheduling order, and request that the court not even consider a new trial date until some unspecified later time. There's no basis in law or fact for proceeding in such an undeterminate and open-ended fashion, and the defendants provide none. For the reasons discussed below in the government's motion, the court should reset the trial date in this action for December 11th, 2023. That's when prosecutors want the trial to take place. And it goes on to walk through the specific claims that were made in this previous filing and why they're not legitimate in the minds of the prosecutors, Jack Smith's team. And I tend to agree with Jack Smith here. It doesn't make sense, especially, so there's two things on this. Number one, I don't exactly understand how it shifts after the presidential election. Either way, as is pointed out in the Jack Smith legal filing, you're going to have to get, because of who Trump is, the system to do what the system has to do in a situation like this and get a fair trial for someone who you really can't find a person on this planet who doesn't have some opinion about Donald Trump. Either way, you're going to have a more difficult situation for getting a fair trial for a defendant and allowing due process to play out fairly there. But the election doesn't necessarily change that. And what we're finding out is definitely Trump, based on some previous reporting we discussed also early in the week, he is kind of now left with hoping, and you could phrase it, his last hope for getting out of legal accountability is becoming president again. And that's what he feels, and that's what people around him are telling reporters, that Trump is hinging his whole belief that he can get out of legal accountability on him winning the 2024 presidential election and becoming president again. And so for us, separate from analyzing if the legal justification being used from his attorneys is sound or not, if we are hoping that the chances are the highest that Trump is held accountable, whatever that means, whatever that looks like after due process plays out and all of it, to be as high as possible, those chances that he is indeed held accountable, then before the election, because we know how presidents don't really get prosecuted. And so it would be a very unfortunate situation if indeed Eileen Campbell pushes back this trial beyond the 2024 presidential election, even though I do believe Trump will lose, and so maybe it won't even matter, but in the off chance and the horrific chance that he does win. And then while we're on the subject of his legal woes, the other side of the federal investigation into a separate investigation, but also being overseen by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, the investigation into Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election, we just got this, as is being reported from the New York Times. Federal prosecutors investigating former President Donald J. Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election have questioned multiple witnesses in recent weeks, including Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, about whether Mr. Trump had privately acknowledged in the days after the 2020 election that he had lost, according to 4 people briefed on the matter. The line of questioning suggests prosecutors are trying to establish whether Mr. Trump was acting with corrupt intent as he sought to remain in power, essentially that his efforts were knowingly based on a lie, evidence that could substantially bolster any case they might decide to bring against him. So what is trying to be established here is, in a conversation that we've had separate from the legality of it, just the speculation about, was Trump trying to overturn the election results because he authentically thought that the election was being stolen from him, or because he was wanting the lies he was telling was for his followers to believe, but he didn't believe it, and he just wanted power. So he was trying to overturn the election because he wanted power, not because he authentically believed it was being unlawfully, illegitimately stolen from him. And I think it's pretty clear that the lies he was spewing, the garbage he was putting out there, were not things he authentically bought into. The January 6th Select Committee uncovered some things to that effect, and lots of reporting has, and it seems like he knew he lost. He was so deeply troubled by the fact that he lost. He was too much of a snowflake to accept that he lost, that he created this whole lie around him and around the election that we've had to deal with now, and a whole movement has spawned off of it for years. And I don't put it past him, I guess, when I really think about it, to be so narcissistic and delusional that maybe he can spawn garbage he knows to be garbage, and then after a while start buying into it, and buying into his own lies in some distorted sense, even though he knows they're lies, but he does. I don't really know how that type of brain works, but maybe something wacky's going on. Either way, he should be held accountable. And then last thing on this, according to Times correspondent Maggie Haberman, Trump was very upset that both Kushner and his daughter Ivanka Trump, who has not yet been questioned before the grand jury, but did testify before the January 6th committee, had cooperated with federal investigators in cases against him. So, least surprising thing imaginable. He's upset that they're cooperating with investigators. And we remember he was also reportedly very unhappy when Ivanka Trump, as a part of those January 6th Select Committee hearings, said in an interview that she tends to agree with the assessment of Bill Barr when it comes to the 2020 election, which is to say that she rejects Trump's election lies. Not something he likes to hear, I'm sure. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.